Hi everyone, I'm Gerald Lopez and I'm introducing David Holden to you today. David Holden is going to talk about biohacking healing, and in particular, he's going to talk today about sleep, sleep hygiene, and once he's told us all about sleep, he'll give us some hacks on how to improve our sleep. So sleep, a lot of people talk about sleep, and I read somewhere, David, that in the US, at least 40% of people report issues with sleep. So how big is this epidemic?
Well, thank you, Gerald, for the introduction. Yeah, it's big and it's getting bigger. There's a lot of factors in this. It's quite a complicated area to unpack, but there's some very simple biohacks I will give you, particularly the supplements at the end of this talk, but sleep hygiene, which is the platform that everyone needs to follow, like good nutrition, like we spoke about in the nutrition section. You've got to have macro minerals, you've got to have vitamin D. If you don't have those on board, none of the other more interesting hacks for energy, for vitality, for performance in the bedroom, etc., none of those work if you're not well mineralized and you're not got vitamin D on board to drive those minerals into the body. The same is true with insomnia, chronic or otherwise, or intermittent. Insomnia is very common in the over 50s as your melatonin levels start to drop. So we can obviously biohack by supplementing with melatonin, and I'll talk in much more detail about that towards the end. But the fundamental foundation that everyone needs to get is sleep hygiene. So these are non-negotiables that you need to try first. Always have blackout curtains in your bedroom so you can completely shut out the outside world. If you don't have these, you need to get them. Until you can afford to get them, put a sheet or ideally a blanket over the top of your curtain rail so you can tuck them in and black it out until you get proper blackout curtains, or curtains with a liner that won't let bright sun in at all. You also want to have some ventilation in the room. The ideal temperature for sleep is 18 degrees. 16 to 18 degrees is about right. Just a little bit cool because obviously if it's hot, it's harder to sleep. That's key. The other thing that people often don't think of is turning off your Wi-Fi at night. Now, I haven't had Wi-Fi for over 5 years. I'm hardwired. You get faster internet. You don't have to bother with Wi-Fi routers. And I talk a lot about this in the EMR, electromagnetic radiation area, because a lot of people are becoming more sensitive to these frequencies. So if you get tinnitus, high-pitched ringing in the ear, or you get headaches, try turning your Wi-Fi off and going hardwired. And it's not hard to do. Costs a little bit of money to go hardwired, but bare minimum, turn Wi-Fi off as soon as you go to bed and turn it on when you wake up if you want to use the internet fairly quickly when you get up. But you don't need it on at night unless you're trading stocks on the New York stock market at 2 in the morning. You don't need your Wi-Fi on, so turn the bloody thing off. And ideally, start using EMR hygiene around these devices. Do not hold them against your head. Do not have long conversations on them if you can avoid it. Now, sometimes you can't. You want to have the cell phone or device off your body. That's going to make a difference. And it does make a difference to sleep patterns. The blue flickering light from devices too close to bedtime switches off melatonin. So just to give you a bit of a review of melatonin, everyone produces melatonin. When the sun goes down, your levels go up. Then when the sun rises, your levels drop. Then your serotonin goes up, and then that drops in darkness and melatonin rises again. So it's a cyclic diurnal rhythm. Melatonin at night, serotonin's low at night, serotonin's high in the day, melatonin's low in the day. Now, you don't get that serotonin rise if you don't produce enough melatonin. So this is where the biohacking of supplementation comes in. So once you've darkened your room, got the temperature right, turned off your Wi-Fi, don't have a big meal just before you go to bed. Have 3 minimum, 4 preferably hours after you've eaten dinner before you go to bed. If you practice intermittent fasting like I do, then you tend to have an earlier dinner, a later breakfast, and because I'm in my 60s, I only really have 2 meals a day these days because I don't want to put on extra weight. And 2 meals a day is enough if it's high quality nutrition, which will also help your melatonin production. Right. So let's talk about the specific hacks for people who can't sleep. So there's 3 different types of insomnia. A, B, and C. A is people who just can't initiate sleep properly and take like over an hour to actually fall off to sleep. And that can be just a simple 5-HTP supplement you can buy even in the chemist warehouse. The Clinician's brand REM Sleep contains 100 milligrams of 5-HTP, and you want to take 2 or even 3, but try 2 first of those just before you go to bed with some magnesium. If you don't take magnesium, A, you're a fool because everyone needs it, particularly if you're exposed to Wi-Fi. And if you're under stress, if you've got a job you don't like, if you've got difficulties in your relationship, you're going to burn magnesium faster than normal, as the same as B vitamins. And that's why those nutrients are in the fundamental foundation nutrition of Macro Minerals 101 and vitamin D. If you don't have that on board, the 5-HTP and the melatonin won't work as well. Now, there are other things you can do. Many of you have heard of Sleep Drops International. I know the owner of the company. She's a good friend of mine. The products are amazing. They do work. You can get Sleep Drops Max, which is a liquid, and you can take that at night before you go to bed, and that will help as well. Then we bring in the big guns. Now, 5-HTP converts to tryptophan in the brain, okay, which converts over time to melatonin. So you can use those, or you can go straight for the jugular and use melatonin as well. Most people over 60 need way more melatonin than doctors think. I found I take 10 milligrams a night myself with some white rhino medicinal cannabis, which is another thing because was a chronic insomniac. But the white rhino and the melatonin knocks me out for 7 or 8 hours. I sleep like a baby. I sleep like the dead. It's amazing. It really does make a difference. So try melatonin. You have to get a script. Unfortunately, the last parting shots of the Labour Greens government was to restrict several natural medicines, and melatonin was one of them. So you now need a script from your GP, and once you've got that script, you can order it overseas, or you can get the pharmaceutical level melatonin, but the sustained release melatonin is the better form, and you take that just before bed with water. Do not take it with any protein. And have some magnesium with it. And the magnesium I use is a powder from Metagenics called Sleep X, which is a really high-dosed magnesium that's absorbed, and it really augments and relaxes your central nervous system so you can start to drift into sleep. Now, if your mind's really busy, and when you're wanting to sleep, then meditation is the key to fix that. That's the biohack. So meditating earlier in the day, just for 20 minutes. And there's so many different meditation types. Yeah. One size does not fit all. I'm trained in 5 meditation techniques. The one I learned first when I was 17 was TM. And I like TM, but I've done Vipassana, and I've done yogic meditations, Kundalini meditations, pranayama meditations. There's all sorts. Joe Dispenza's meditations, which are brilliant, and a really good, another biohack for meditation, because your mental emotional health is dramatically improved by regular meditation, which lowers your anxiety so you don't get these flood of thoughts all the time when you want to sleep, and you can just focus on peaceful scenes and counting sheep or counting waves rolling in the beach when you're sitting there meditating in your mind while you're lying in bed ready to go to sleep. So that's a useful hack. And just have a calming tea about an hour before you go to bed. There's many sleep teas on the market. Pukka brand from the UK does a very good sleepy time tea, and so does Organic India, a sleep tulsi tea, and there's others. Celestial Seasonings do one as well, so they're worth trying. And so you've got several hacks there. Sleep Drops International, 5-HTP, REM sleep from clinicians at the warehouse, Chemist Warehouse. Metagenic Sleep X powder, which you need to get a natural medicine practitioner like myself script to get it. But if you don't have that and you want it, contact me and I can have a discussion with you over the phone. Then I can prescribe it. Then you can get it delivered to your door from Metagenics or any of the other companies whose products that I recommend for you. With the melatonin, as I said again, you need to have a good relationship with your GP. GPs are not well trained in this. They've been knee-jerk trained to give you Zopiclone or clonazepam or other types of hypnotic sedatives or anti-anxiety medications, which actually disturb your serotonin balance, which is not a good idea. Taking melatonin really only has upsides, as does 5-HTP, as does the Sleep Drops International product. If you're a more sensitive person, I would go for the Sleep Drops Max. That's a really good product. If you're pretty, Kiwi sort of a bloke, then go for something that's going to knock you out pretty well, and that would be the REM sleep or the melatonin with the magnesium powder.
Right. Now there's some people who, they work late or play late, and then they have a few hours sleep, and they say they've had enough sleep, but then they start their morning with a huge cup of coffee or several coffees to get them going. So what is the good amount of sleep? Is there a particular amount?
Absolutely good question. There's a sweet spot, and it's 6 to 8 hours every night for every adult. Now, as you get older and you get less active and your melatonin drops, people think that they can get away with 3 or 4 hours and listen to the radio if they can't sleep, and if they're a meditator, they might get up and meditate and then they'll go back into sleep. No, look, you really do. Your brain needs, and your nervous system needs at least 6 to 8 hours to rest and reset. There's a lot going on in your cerebral neocortex when you're asleep. You're dreaming, your brain is still active, but it's filing memory systems, stuff that needs to go into long-term memory, stuff that's only short-term memory, processing things that you've experienced during the day, particularly if you've had a very emotional day or a very stressful day, or your work's been demanding, or you've had an argument with your spouse or your kids or your boss. So all of those things have an effect, and they spike cortisol. And cortisol keeps you active and moving because it's the hormone your body releases if you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. So you've got energy to run up the tree and get away from the tiger, right? But you can't sleep when you're in that mode. So you need to switch fight or flight off. And all those techniques I've talked about, the sleep hygiene, the darkened room, no Wi-Fi, eating many hours beforehand, doing some kind of meditation, prepping with a sleepy time tea, and taking your chosen supplementation. Now, even people who have the worst insomnia ever and have had it for over 10 years, I've managed to give them a good night's sleep. And it's usually a combination of those biohacks. And that's where working with a natural medicines practitioner who knows what they're doing can give you help if you're a really chronic insomniac. It's not an easy one to fix. It took me 3 years, and I'm a practitioner. This was many years ago. Once I found the formula, I stuck with it, and I've been on what I use for the last 5 years now. And it's very rare I have a broken night's sleep. Sometimes on a full moon, I'll sprout even more hair and start howling. But it's common for people to not sleep so well on a full moon. Get used to it. Just like if a woman's menstrual cycle is in tune with the elements, she'll menstruate on a full moon as a rule. Okay, it doesn't always happen. Either a new moon or a full moon is the most common time. So with a full moon, you're psychically more active. You will want to sleep less that night. That's okay. don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds from what you're saying, David, is that we need to consciously prepare for sleep. A lot of people, they're doing all sorts of stuff, and then they hit the bed, and then they kind of can't go to sleep.
Yeah.
So you really,
They're frazzled.
yes,
Their nervous system is frazzled. You're not going to sleep
exactly.
in that
So you
state,
need to prepare at least 3 or 4 hours beforehand. One is eating early, and then all the other things that you were saying. So sleep is actually is probably, you could say, it's a ritual that we need to go through to prepare for sleep and kind of invite good sleep.
And it's been said by many professors of physiology that sleep is like a meal. It's a meal where you don't eat, but your body does so
Yes.
many processes in your brain, in your physiology, while you're at deep rest. So let's talk a little bit about the different cycles of sleep.
Right.
So you go through sleep initiation, you go into alpha. I spoke about that before. Everyone goes through alpha twice a day, just before and after they go to sleep, and just before and after you wake up. And at that time, your brain is very, very suggestible. So as you're lying there, you just think, sleep, I'm going into a deep sleep. You basically talk to hypnotize yourself. I'm lucky that I've trained in hypnosis, so I know how to do that. But you just dialogue in your brain. My eyes are getting heavier. I'm feeling more relaxed. And if you're a yogi, you can do a pranayama exercise where you start at the top of your head, you tense the scalp on the inhalation, and then breathe out and relax. And you go to the neck, then the face, then the shoulders, and the arms, and the chest, the belly, right down to your toes. And I defy most people to get beyond the hips, because they'll probably drift off to sleep, particularly if you've taken the melatonin or the sleep drops or the particular thing that works for you. And I muscle test it out on patients. I do kinesiology. We find out what's going to work for you. And as I said before, for the real bad chronic insomniacs, we have the magic of medicinal cannabis, white rhino, which is a particular strain that you take a few drops just on your tongue just before you go to bed, and you go into a very lovely mellow state, and you just sleep. You don't get stoned. You wake up in the morning sober as, no issue there at all. You've just had a very deep, relaxing sleep, and you get up and think, yep, I'm ready to tackle my day.
Fantastic. So, folks, this is all part of the biohacking healing series that we are doing, and which also lead up to the events that David is going to do. So tell us, David, what you plan to do in terms of getting it across to people.
Sure.
How to improve their
Sure.
life.
As I said before, I'm in the process of putting the last finishing touches and getting the artwork done for the ebook, which is a freebie, which you can get by going on to biohackinghealing.com, giving us your email address and your cell phone number, and we will notify. We won't spam you. We don't notify you too often, but we'll be telling you when the events are coming up. I'm going to be doing one event in New Zealand this year, and it's going to be at the Rose Centre in Belmont in Auckland. The date has not been set yet. That is going to be filmed. Gerald will be there doing some of the filming, and it'll be set up as a bit of a show. I'm going to be wearing a bit of makeup and costume. We're going to have lights, and we're going to do a bit of a pizzazz. It's going to be a lot of fun, and that is being used to make a documentary to launch my tour throughout New Zealand, from Whangarei down to Christchurch, possibly Queenstown, early next year, and then I'll be doing Australia. So I will be coming to regions. We're wanting to get expressions of interest from people if they want to learn more about this technology. You need to come to the event, and then you can access the videos on the online course. And I will be doing blogs. I'll be doing another larger paid version of the ebook, which will have a lot more information in it. And there'll be a paperback coming out before Christmas that you can buy as well. And I will be doing Biohacking Healing 202 and a 303 in future years. 101 is to lay the foundation for your body as your canvas to create the life that you want. Biohacking healing is all about you taking control, you deciding where you want to go with your healthcare, with your education, with your finances, whatever it is in life, you can biohack it. And so I'll be teaching you the tips so that your health doesn't have to hold you back. You can be the best version of you, and biohacking is your tool to do that.
Yeah, really look forward to that, David. And also look forward to our next session together. So watch this space and watch out for our next video in which we'll talk about other health aspects using biohacking healing. So thanks very much, David. Thank you all for coming today, and we'll see you next time.